New investigations involving what goes on out of sight at an immigration detention facility in the suburbs. The coming crackdown on rogue drones in this state and the people who put them in the air.
Because most of the time, they're either careless or clueless. They're not trying to do it for criminal activities.
As Mayor Michael Hancock leaves office with the copyright to a 90-minute self-promotional film made with city resources, I'd like to offer a word about a legacy of selfishness. Let's buy some welcome home kits for people who are leaving a homeless shelter and moving into a place of their own. And yes, there's a big concert in town tonight, and that's where we'll go looking for good news from some people who might have been dragged to see the show. Tonight on Next. We don't see or hear about most of what goes on inside the immigration detention facility in Aurora. Lawyers who do get inside say that solitary confinement is used more and more there, as it's used less frequently in U.S. prisons. Here's Angela McCall.
Inmates at the Aurora ICE facility say they are constantly in fear of being placed in solitary confinement in a new complaint filed by several advocacy groups.
So the reason we started putting together this complaint is because client after client kept complaining about being placed in solitary confinement. And we started scratching our heads and saying, is this happening more often than we realize?
Laura Lund works with the Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, one of the organizations behind the report that says the facility has a practice of overusing and misusing solitary confinement as a tool to control behavior. Lund says she believes it's higher than before or during the pandemic.
And then they realized it was a way to control flow of people and conduct and behavior. And then now we're at a stage where so many more people are being placed in solitary confinement than ever before.
The report shares similar stories from different people. One said, if I spoke too loudly, solitary. If I climbed on top of a table to get a guard's attention, solitary. If I had suicidal thoughts, solitary. Another said she was falsely accused of spitting on a bed. She was put in solitary for 6 days before being found not guilty.
I wish I could say that the case examples that we highlight in this complaint are complete anomalies, but that's not the case.
In a statement, ICE says it's committed to ensuring that all those in its custody reside in safe, secure, and humane environments under appropriate conditions of confinement. Something Lund says she hasn't seen for herself.
When you're in the business of detaining people, you have to make sure that they're safe. That is your obligation as their custodian. And so, certainly I know that that is the goal, but ultimately ICE is not very good at it.
There have been complaints filed against the Aurora facility in 2018, 2019, and 2022. Lund says, if anything, she believes the treatment since then has gotten worse. ICE says all formal complaints are investigated in some form.
I feel like when you say solitary, people are going to remember back to a few years ago when Colorado State Prison said, we're not going to do solitary anymore.
Right, and so it's not allowed in Colorado State prisons, still allowed in local prisons because those are, two different things. The state controls the state prisons. But yeah, that says a lot, right? When one state says we're not going to allow it in these kinds of facilities, and then yet because this is federal, it means that in the end, it's still happening.
All right. Appreciate your eye on it. Angela McCall, thank you. The state says that there is not a systemic problem with Arapahoe County Child Protective Services. That despite the fact that there's a criminal case against one former social worker accused of faking child abuse reports and possible fraud by another employee there. Former caseworker Robin Nacetta is set to go to trial in August. She's accused of calling a child abuse hotline to make false claims against Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky. Councilwoman had been publicly critical of Nacetta's ex, former Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson. Jurinsky has since gathered dozens of other plaintiffs for a federal lawsuit accusing Nacetta and Arapahoe County Human Services of fraud and civil rights violations. Today, the state's Department of Human Services says a year-long investigation did not find any systemic problems in Arapahoe County. But this report sets aside the case of a second child services staffer who allegedly faked information about client contacts. Today, a spokesperson for Arapahoe County told us that employee was not included in the report because they were fired, and supervisors referred that case to prosecutors. Jurinsky today called that report hypocritical and said that Nacetta and this other employee are, quote, two liars that affected hundreds of families. Colorado's Republican Congresswoman Lauren Bobert is putting a book ban into a national defense bill. Today, House Republicans narrowly passed the annual defense bill, which outlines policy and funding for the military. Conservatives added amendments that would end diversity initiatives and block funding for service members to seek abortions and gender-affirming care. The House version of the bill also includes an amendment from Representative Bobert prohibiting military school libraries from offering, quote, pornography or books espousing radical gender ideology.
To save America, conservatives need to hold the line. We need to continue to push back against the Biden administration's woke agenda. We saw many victories yesterday doing exactly that.
Bobert also spoke today in support of Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who has been blocking military leadership nominations as he defends white nationalists in the military. Some of the best views of this beautiful state come to us from drones. But when those little unmanned devices are in the air, they can put life-saving operations at risk. Wildfire water drops, flight for life trips, they can't work around drones. Unlike airplanes, we can't easily track drone flights in real time. And our Marshall Zellinger got a look at some technology created in Broomfield that can not only track the drone, but find the person flying it.
Kyle, think of the last flight you took. You're able to go online and figure out where that plane is at any moment, where it was, how long it's going to take. Kind of like that plane flying Taylor Swift. But that same type of newsworthy reporting is not available to track drones currently. Right now, the only way to figure out where a drone is to listen for that buzz, look around for it, and maybe be able to find the person controlling it. Aside from the annoying buzzing sound, drones, which take up just a small spot in the sky, can keep bigger aircraft on the ground, especially when they're needed most, during wildfires.
We have to shut down all of the aircraft for that fire until that drone is securely on the ground.
Jeff Singer manages drones for the Colorado Center of Excellence on the Western Slope. He also manages how to handle drones that are not supposed to be around when the state is assisting with wildfire operations from the air.
Large air tankers that deliver retardant, they have to be set down. So everything gets shut down until that drone is either no longer a threat or it's been removed from that area. That could take up to a whole day.
The FAA keeps records of unauthorized drone reports. Let's call them rogue drones. Since 2020, 147 rogue drones have been reported in Colorado. One of them interfered with an aerial attack on a wildfire. In June 2021, water drops from aircraft in Colorado had to stop flying to a fire in Utah because of a rogue drone.
Oh, there he is. So he's flying over the lake.
David Burritt
The distance from our location to the pilot is 1,800 feet.
is working on technology that would make finding the person flying a rogue drone more precise than, hey, look around for someone with a controller in their hands.
We make receivers that detect remote ID, which is telemetry information about the drone, the height of the drone, the speed of the drone, heading, as well as the location of the pilot.
When photojournalist Mike Grady put Cloud 9 in the sky, Burritt was able to identify where the drone was flying.
We got an alert on the phone saying a drone has come into the airspace that you're monitoring.
More importantly,
He is right there.
he could pinpoint where Grady was standing.
This technology is going to be able for us to detect drones within a fire traffic area, use that information to contact the pilot. The difference right now is I have to visually be able to see a drone.
If you don't have tickets to the Taylor Swift concert, you're not going by the stadium, but Dave Burritt is. He's taking his equipment down there tonight to test his equipment and see if he can detect drones, rogue drones, when there's tens of thousands of cell phones and radio interference in the same spot. He tells me besides wildfire assistance and flight for life flight assistance, this could be used by local law enforcement and jails for drones illegally dropping things that shouldn't be dropped into the jail perimeter. This would be able to detect who did it. You'd have evidence of like who the drone operator is, and then you could contact the FAA for identification of who was operating it at that time.
Marshall, it's right behind you.
I hear it.
It's right there.
And
it's
I can
right
see
there.
the person operating
And
it.
you can see the operator. Yeah. Bad news for anybody who wants to drop a stash into a prison yard by drone, which I just think is absolutely fascinating. Marshall Zellinger, thank you so much, sir. Hey, quick idea. There are Coloradans leaving a homeless shelter for a place of their own, and they're going to walk in with all that excitement and hope, and the place is going to be empty. no bed to sleep in, none of the basic essentials like linens and bath towels and kitchen stuff. So, what do you say we chip in together and maybe buy some rehousing welcome kits? Since Wednesday, you have raised more than $17,000 for the nonprofit The Dolores Project. That nonprofit based in Denver provides all kinds of supportive services to women and transgender Coloradans with barriers to stable housing in their lives. When they're ready to go out on their own, our welcome kits will be there waiting at their new place. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of other Coloradans in donating. We know how your $5 contributions add up. Since 2020, you have raised more than $11 million for Colorado's nonprofits through your Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns.
They've all had that good moisture, but unfortunately it won't translate to ash at all.
The biggest pain in the ash for people who love Colorado's trees has appeared in a new spot in the metro area. Mayor Hancock leaves office with a 90-minute taxpayer-paid film about his greatness and 90 seconds from me about his selfishness. And it would be easy to ask Taylor Swift fans for their good news today, but what do you say we ask some of the people who got dragged to the show? Next. The wet spring and early summer means that trees on the Front Range are especially healthy this year, so they should be more able to hold off a lot of pests and diseases. But that might not stop the beetles that are killing ash trees. The emerald ash borer beetle feeds on ash trees, which is about 15% of the tree canopy on the Front Range. Colorado's Forest Service has been tracking these beetles since they were first detected in Boulder 10 years ago. This is the first year that they have spread to Arapahoe County, as well as some communities on the western slope.
The insect doesn't travel a great distance by itself, so a lot of the times if it makes a jump from city to city, it's on firewood or a cut down ash tree that gets driven around and dumped somewhere.
Arborists say best way to protect your ash is to give healthy trees a root injection. They need this every year. You can tell which trees have been attacked because the beetle tears them a new ash hole. It's a D-shaped hole that it makes in the bark. Danielle Grant, City of Denver's actually got a really cool program. They go around, they tag trees, and they say, you know, this ash is covered, but they invite homeowners who have the means to pay for these injections, which are not exorbitantly expensive, to cover their own trees, and then basically they'll skip your tree and they'll use your treatment on somebody else's, you know what I mean, to try and cover the canopy. The idea is to cover as many as possible because once the beetle gets in, it's bad news.
Yes, it's very infectious. I like that, kind of spreading the love, making sure that everything is A-okay, because yes, they are infectious. But you guys, it's Friday night. The sunshine is out. We had a cool front move through earlier this morning, so temperatures, believe it or not, a whole lot cooler than where we were yesterday. Nice to have some blue skies. Still some cumulus clouds building in the distance, so we're not completely out of the woods, as we could have a bit more rain and a couple of thunderstorms. Highs sitting in the 80s for the urban corridor, still scorching out to the west, 99 in Grand Junction. As we look on the Futurecast and the radar tonight, you can see one severe cell around Colorado Springs. Otherwise, it's right there across our border from Nebraska into parts of northern Colorado. Those storms primarily are going to stay across the eastern plains for us tonight. By 11 p.m., we'll just be looking at a few clouds here in Denver, and then early tomorrow morning, sunshine's back for us. Not for long, though. By 1, 2 o'clock, thunderstorms already rumbling across the Palmer Divide in the eastern plains. And then look at this. By about 7 o'clock, concert goers, heads up. We might be looking at a couple of thunderstorms pushing across parts of the Denver area. Biggest concern would be lightning. Otherwise, just a general threat for seeing some gusty storms push through with a marginal risk in south central Colorado. Highs again tomorrow going to be on the cooler side for this time of the year. In the 80s, should be pretty nice if you are heading out to the Taylor Swift concert tomorrow. 77 with about a 30% chance for seeing some storms. The heat's back on Sunday at 90, but close to triple digits. Woo! Next Monday.
Thank you, Danielle. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock is wrapping up 12 years in office. For those of us who have lived in Denver for his entire tenure, or for part of it, or for those who have watched from outside city limits, it's an opportunity to reflect on a legacy that I think is far from decided. Mayor Hancock was unable to solve some very difficult problems: homelessness, housing affordability, traffic, pedestrian deaths on our city streets. I don't think it's fair to judge him on that, at least until we see how his successor fares with the same set of problems. Now, the mayor's boosters, the city's power players, they love the Hancock years. Those were good years for them. And you'll see some of them in the taxpayer-funded feature-length film that the city made celebrating the greatness of Mayor Hancock. The city gave him the copyright to the film as well, just in case he might find it useful in future self-promotion. Which brings me to one uncomfortable aspect of the Hancock era, which does not require more time to mull over: his legacy of personal selfishness. sexually harassing a female police officer assigned to protect him was, among other things, an act of selfishness. Telling Denverites to stay home for the holidays during the pandemic, then flying out of town to see his own family, that was another act of selfishness. Using city resources for a feature-length film dedicated to his own greatness, copyrighted to him for his future use, was a final act of selfishness. Now, you can argue that those are small things in the scope of 12 years and big problems. But something tells me Denver will remember.
It says, who's Taylor Swift anyway? Ew.
He is what you would describe as not a Swiftie, but Swiftie adjacent. They're both headed to Mile High tonight because who wants to go to a concert alone? We're going to ask some of them for their good news. Next. Hey, may I make a recommendation? Something that's not from us at 9 News, but I really think you'll love this. Tomorrow is the television premiere of a documentary on the birth of Major League Baseball in Colorado as the Rockies celebrate 30 years. Our former colleague, our forever friend Kyle Dyer, put together When Colorado Went Major League. I got to see it last night at McGregor Square. I'm telling you, I am not the largest Rockies fan in the world. You know this, but this is exceptional. It has all of the hard work, the community joy, the hope of big-time baseball coming to Colorado. It is a great way to spend an hour. You can catch it tomorrow on Channel 20 at 7 p.m., then streaming on 9 News Plus. All right, we held off on the T-Swift stuff till now, but let's do it. Let's go out to Mile High. Let's ask some Swifties, and especially the Swifties plus ones, for their good news on a Friday evening.
My good news is that this beautiful weather here in Colorado, especially Denver right now, for this event, people are happy around, they're surrounded. It's all blessings.
How does it feel to be at a Taylor Swift concert? Are you excited?
I'm feeling bankrupt.
I'm getting married September 2nd of this year, so just about 6 weeks away, which I couldn't be more excited about.
We're pregnant! We're pregnant. That was... I didn't even know we were real. I didn't know we were even rolling, so that's good.
Yeah, I was like...
I thought this was a rehearsal.
We love each other and we play together. We went all the way from Paris, France to come here, and we're so excited, and we're like, ah! My good news is that we're going to the concert, and I'm going to get a service dog in a few days. And he's going to be trained for my finger picking, and he's going to be able to give me hugs.
It says, who's Taylor Swift anyway? Ew. So what kind of comments are you getting? Everyone just says they love my shirt.
Yeah, like your shirt.
Yep.
My good news is I did go to Utah for a week. Then we're going to go to Elitch's soon.
My good news is that yesterday we've done river rafting on the river and the boat reversed, so it could not be dangerous. And finally we are alive, so that's the good news. We're still alive and we can see Taylor Swift tonight.
The good news to me is I'm in a happy spot, and I'm glad to be in Denver. It's a beautiful weather day.
Ah, I love it. I love it. And such great outfits out there. I, of course, prefer a subdued outfit every day. Your feedback, here it comes. It's next. Heather writes, new Denver mayor needs to send Hancock a bill for a self-promotional film. Brent says, and where was your hard-hitting journalism on Hancock the whole time? You can find it on the Google machine, Brent. Judy says, didn't realize that you had a Taylor Swift jacket. And Val writes, why is Kyle Clark so interested in Taylor Swift when they found cocaine in the White House? Lord have mercy, Val. See you next time.